In this unforgettable cinematic journey, we enter a world where the line between survival and savagery is blurred. This thought-provoking film takes us on a visceral ride, examining the limits of human morality and the lengths people will go to endure in the face of extreme circumstances. Released in 2018, The Farm is a gripping and unapologetic exploration of the human condition. It delves into the depths of our primal instincts and raises unsettling questions about the boundaries of our morality. But before we dive into the recap, if you haven't seen the movie yet and are sensitive to disturbing content, you may want to skip this video. However, if you're ready to explore the dark corners of human nature through the lens of this extraordinary film, let's get started. A Los Angeles couple, Nora and Alec, drive to the countryside for a getaway at the start of the film. However, they become lost on the way to their destination. They stop at a waypoint to ask for assistance, but nobody is present there. Nora finds someone's cell phone and pocketbook on the site of a camp, while being unable to even find a loo to relieve herself. She releases herself in the open without a care in the world despite the odd discovery. Later in the scene, we are shown that she completely missed the human skull covered in blood nearby. After that, Nora goes back to the car and chats comfortably about the items she discovered at the rest stop. Alec doesn't seem particularly concerned, though, as he's more concerned about the car's fuel supply. He tells her that they're running low on fuel. Further along their way, the couple encounters a woman whose car has broken down while traveling. Alec offers to start her car for her and starts working right away. The conversation amongst the women shifts to a question about Nora's marital status with Alec. Nora is deeply offended by this comment and states bluntly that it is none of her business. Sadly, the woman becomes offended and begins to criticize the couple. She even goes so far as to label them as foolish and careless. Alec tries his best to fix the car, but he is unable to do so. This aggravates her even more, and she criticizes Alec by referring to him as a bad boyfriend. The pair gets into their car and leaves the woman behind, furious that they are being reprimanded for no apparent reason. Nora shares her dislike of the country when driving, noting interactions with individuals like the elderly woman as one of the factors. They eventually come upon a busy diner and decide to stop for a supper there. They request non-vegetarian burgers and drinks after the waitress describes the menu to them. But when they eat it, they don't like the taste of it. Alec then observes a man strangely staring at Nora. He finds this unpleasant and wants to go immediately. Nora agrees, and the two of them get ready to leave the restaurant without finishing their dinner. The man quickly stops them as they are leaving and informs Nora that she is not safe in this area. Alec looks to be really concerned about what the man said in the following scene, but Nora thinks he's just a weirdo from the area. After some time, they pull up at a petrol station, where Alec fills the tank. Inquiring more about hotel alternatives, he asks Andrew, the cashier, who points them in the direction of several rental cabins farther along the road. They stumble upon a rundown cabin as they continue their journey. Although Nora is initially uneasy about the rundown location, they choose to enter because they have no other options. They are surprised by the landlord's appearance as he ascends the stairs because of his twisted and disfigured features. He extends a kind welcome and inquires as to if they require a room. When Alec confirms that they are looking for a place to stay, the landlord sends them to a nearby cabin and informs them that it used to be rented by scouts and campers. After he leaves, a worried Nora confides in Alec her concerns over the landlord. He assures her that everything will be all right, which helps to calm her down. The camera pans to the top of the bunk next to them as they talk. The bed was bloodstained, which again the couple didn't notice. A figure wearing a sheep mask is observed sneaking under the couple's bed throughout the night. He creeps out from under the bed and stands over them, menacingly. Nora awakens the next morning to find herself locked in a dog cage. The horrifying sight almost gives her a heart attack. She tries to free herself while screaming for Alec, but he is nowhere to be found. Then a man in a goat mask appears and bangs her cage, signaling that she should remain quiet. Scared, Nora agrees. But as the masked man leaves, she attempts to flee. She finds a rock outside her cage and manages to get a hold of it through the bars. She then tries to use it to break the lock on her cage, but just then, the goat-masked man and another man with a cow mask arrive. The latter approaches her slowly and calmly sedates her. Nora regains consciousness in a barn while bound to a chair, her legs forced apart. A rabbit guy then appears and uses a big syringe-like equipment to artificially inseminate her, leaving her screaming in anguish. The two men from earlier place Nora in her cage and take her somewhere. On the way, she witnesses other disguised persons carrying out their usual chores in the barn. She also observes a man dismembering a man's corpse. It becomes clear that this farm produces human meat. After a while, the two guys dump Nora in the barn. The scene then shifts to a room where Alec and other men are being held captive in a cage. As he regains consciousness, he discovers that he has been gagged and stripped naked. Alec tries unsuccessfully to communicate with the other men in the barn. A group of farmers suddenly appears, and one by one, they bash the captured men's heads to knock them unconscious. In a frightening sight, everyone's eyes quickly turn to Alec. He attempts to flee, but the bad guys eventually knock him out. The unconscious Alec is then carried onto a trolley and taken to the slaughterhouse for further processing. The scene then reveals that the property is actually a communal farm maintained by people wearing animal masks. Men are captured and butchered for meat, while women are raised for their milk. The gathered meat is then used to provide catering services for weddings and other celebrations. Surprisingly, the landlord from before is shown to be the leader of this frightening organization. In the following scenario, the landlord is seen receiving a large order that necessitates a large quantity of meat. He is told by a worker that there aren't enough men to match the demand. The landlord has no choice except to utilize one of the ladies who is imprisoned for slaughtering. He next makes his way to the dairy barn, where nursing women are kept in various cages. The landowner evaluates each woman's milk production rates before selecting the least productive one for slaughter. He observes that a mother has been secretly nursing her child during the inspection. The landlord is upset by this, since he has been unable to meet the demand for milk and meat for his business. The infant is then grabbed and violently slammed to the ground on his commands, instantly killing it. The two cruel guys leave, and the woman is left behind. The mother cries for her child while being devastated. Andrew from earlier in the film is subsequently shown to work for the landlord, whose job it is to guide guests to the cabins. But because of his mental impairment, Andrew talks patronizingly to the upset woman. She is enraged by this and accuses him of being sick. In response, Andrew is likewise enraged and calls her a bad woman. Later, a worker goes to the dairy barn to look around and finds the woman dead. It seems obvious that Andrew killed the woman and then fled the scene. When the landlord finds out, he becomes enraged and commands his men to find Andrew. Nora finds a second victim inside the barn, seated next to her in a stable. She is being continuously milked via a connection to a milking machine. Nora asks the woman what is going on at the farm, and she replies, "It's best if you don't know, since there is no way to get away." She then admits that she has spent the previous 2 years being kept on the farm for breeding purposes. She has been bred so many times that she is no longer able to get pregnant. We hear the cries of Ashley, a different lady who has also been held captive for 3 years, as the two continue their conversation. Nora tries to comfort her by promising that they will find a way to get away. Ashley claims, however, that it is difficult to flee from this place since the masked guys always manage to track them down. A masked man at the slaughterhouse sees Andrew fiddling with a pair of severed heads. The maniac is then taken away despite his claims that he is not at fault. The landlord then critiques Andrew for skipping out on his responsibilities and specifically tells him not to play with his food. In this instance, he describes people as food. Following this, Andrew is given a masked supervisor who instructs him to serve the prisoners food. Andrew accidentally knocks the food pot over while carrying out this chore, spilling all of its contents. He runs away out of fear of being caught, and the worker in the mask follows. They ultimately find themselves inside the greenhouse, but Andrew grabs some oregano and keeps running. He quickly runs to the landlord in the kitchen and offers the oregano as a gift. Interestingly, the landlord accepts the present and forgives Andrew. The landlord gives the worker, who had been running after Andrew, instructions to get rid of the unproductive women who are unable to produce milk. The focus then shifts to the barn, where Nora witnesses the earlier woman being processed and killed for meat. She sobs in the butcher's absence as they leave. She is quickly cut off, nevertheless, by a knock on her door. To her shock, Alec is still alive and conscious. They eventually succeed in getting out of the stables, and Nora gasps in excitement. However, the threat is not yet ended because they still need to cross the property safely while avoiding the masked men. Nora helps Alec get to a truck for their escape, but at a crucial moment it won't start. leaving them to continue on foot. They eventually locate a church where they stop for a rest. The faces of Jesus and his followers have been replaced with animal masks. The pair notices as they turn and look around. Suddenly, a man wearing a cow mask walks inside the chapel. The moment he begins to pray, the pair seizes the chance to run away. They are unfortunately seen, and the cowman rings a bell to let the other farm workers know. Alec is caught in a bear trap while escaping, and Nora tries to release him. Alec, though, tells her to flee as the disguised workers draw near. Nora does not want to part ways with the love of her life, but she is unable to do otherwise. The workmen catch up to Alec as she hurriedly flees and smashes his head with a rock. Nora hides out in the male barn during this time. One of the male prisoners there sees her presence and gives her a silent signal to go so that she can protect herself. Nora rushes up to his cage and begs him to assist her in getting away from the miserable farm. The man informs her about a bus that the workers use to transfer their victims after he hesitates a bit. Additionally, he reveals to her where the workers keep the keys. With this knowledge, Nora makes her way to the large area where many cars are parked. She sees a disguised driver there, fortunately with his back to her. Nora takes advantage of this by using a hammer to strike him in the head and induce unconsciousness. 3 people in masks see Nora at that very moment and hurry in her direction, but she jumps in the car and drives through the gate. Unfortunately, she quickly runs out of gas and has to get out. Then, after being followed throughout the property, Nora returns to the stables out of desperation. She assists Ashley outdoors after releasing her from there. They then proceed to the bus, only to discover that the keys are gone. Nora is disappointed, but she keeps recalling what the imprisoned man had said before. So she goes to the specified residence to get the keys. After finding it, she finds her way back to the bus. Ashley seems to be very concerned for some reason, and Nora notices this as the bus is started. To her horror, she discovers that all of the seats are occupied by masked men. As the film comes to a close, the disguised workers are seated around a table being served Nora and Ashley like roast pigs with apples in their mouths. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable cinematic adventure. We hope this movie recap has piqued your curiosity and encouraged you to explore the depths of human nature in the films you watch. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more captivating movie analyses and exciting content. Share your thoughts on The Farm in the comments below. As always, stay tuned for more thrilling recaps and insightful discussions. Until next time, remember to keep exploring the diverse and thought-provoking world of cinema.